but yeah, I'll just get started. I have bad throat also, so excuse me for the voice. So I'm Lakshmanan Nataraj. I'm currently an AI researcher, advisor, and consultant. Today I'm going to talk about data as an enabler of innovation, from cybersecurity to deepfake detection. And at this juncture, I would like to thank Dr. Jyotirmay Datta or JD, as well as the CDPG, for inviting me to give this talk here. And so this is going to be a slightly different type of talk, wherein I think we are used to seeing how data plays a role in different aspects. But in my case, I've seen over and over that data also helped me in my research, and and it tries to, when you look at things in a different perspective, it really helped a lot. So I'll just go over that. Like, so the agenda of today's talk is going to be like basically a high level introduction, and then how data was an enabler of innovation for me and helped me in seminal works, meaning like previously not thought of works, and touch upon few of those areas, and then finally we can have some discussion and conclusion. So I briefly introduce myself. So I did my engineering in Chennai from Venkateshwara College, Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, and later on went to the US at UC Santa Barbara to do PhD, MS and PhD. And my advisor was Professor B.S. Manjunath, who himself has IISc connection. He did his masters in the 80s at IISc, and if I'm not wrong, I think Professor K.R. Ramakrishnan and Manjunath's brother is also currently a faculty at IISc. His name is B.S. Rajnikant. So, in case anybody has come across. So, the PhD lasted for about 7 years, 6 to 7 years, and that time I was also fortunate to do internships at like Walt Disney Animation Studios, where lots of animations, movies, all were done, as well as SRI International, which is a research lab, like which does pure research, non-academic, non-industrial lab. So that was a nice, with a really amazing experience as well. So later I joined my professor's company. It's called Maya Chitra, like magic pictures or magic images, as a research scientist. So our company used to do a lot of R&D projects for the US government agencies. These include agencies like DARPA, NSF, and also like Office of Naval Research, ONR, NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and many other organizations. So it's like we have to write, they will usually come up to the call for proposals. We have to write proposals, and then these projects go on for, it can go for like 2 years to 5 years to different periods of time. So I was fortunate that my research, what I did my PhD, was also considered for like a translational research. Take it from pure research to like a higher TRL, technology readiness level, and take it to like deployment. So and both were funded by the Navy Office of Naval Research. So like my PhD was also funded by them, and then they also had funded this project, and to see to it that the translational research happens. So I think this is something which you've been hearing, we have heard of quite often from different quarters, the technology readiness level, TRL, and like organizations like Anusandhan, National Research Foundation, and so on. So that's what like translation really is really important also. So I was fortunate to be both like the PI for that, as well as my research also was taken to the next stage. Uh, and then I was also lucky to be a co-PI for a DARPA project. And it's very rare to, it's a great opportunity once in a while to be part of these types of projects. DARPA is like the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, very difficult projects and very like hectic. You have so like and we just being a part of it itself was quite an amazing experience. And there like had worked on techniques like deepfake detection, GAN detection, and also like geospatial image verification and so on. Was also lucky to kind of all of these were also converted to US patents. So was lucky to have about 6 patents granted, and also all of this collectively, both my work and the PhD collectively, it got a lot of citations there. I was also lucky to get a OVED visa for all of these put together. Like the OVED visa is an outstanding research visa, and which is equivalent to the EB1, which is like the highest in the visa category. I did get an EB1 approved when I came back to India, but I had already come back to India, so I didn't really pursue that application. So that was another thing. And in India, I joined Trimble as a principal R&D engineer. There, I had worked on computer vision and AI projects, and also started a group internally, wherein a knowledge sharing group, and just like how you have data dialogues today, we used to have weekly meetings where different people would come and present, and I used to be the convener and coordinator for all of that. So that was a very good experience, and it got appreciation from the CEO, and like that had done about 100 weekly meetups over a period of 1.5 years. And then later on, the last year or so, been an independent researcher, and was also fortunate to be involved in different organizations. Like currently, I'm an advisor to Anusandhan National Research Foundation, and currently helping out with Saral AI, which is a democratizing research initiative to democratize papers in different languages and so on, and also helped in the AI for Science and Engineering program, which recently the call for proposals just got completed. And very recently, I was also fortunate to be been part of a technical advisor for AkeStep Foundation slash People Plus AI. You may have heard about it in Bangalore. They're working on AI safety. And apart from these, I also advise or consult for some startups at different capacities. Um, so I'll just go over some very basic parts. So my early undergrad research, right, when I was a BTech, like B student, was took part in some research, helping out some professors doing some research. So even back then, my first undergrad paper was detecting like photoshopped images, and this was way back in 2006. At that time, like people were like all of us are just using MATLAB, and the data itself is very few. It's not like today where you have lots of data and so on, but helped in like kind of using at least I got knowledge of neural networks and autoregressive modeling and all of that, which is very much today. It's like one of the hot topics. Both are hot topics, and we did publish a paper and it got an international conference and thing. But in today's terms, that those would be like the examples were just shown in few images. And in those days it was common, but now you need definitely like thousands of images and data to show these results. The second one was, excuse me, I helped I was part of one of my seniors doing some research on brain computer interface. Today we hear about a lot of BCI. So we went to a scan center and we tried to put EEG caps on our heads and try to follow some guidelines here and there. And basically, like when somebody will say think right, you have to think right, and the signal is recorded for that particular time. Then you say think left, and then you have to it's recorded for that particular point of time. And then instead of thinking, you can also move your arm to the right, like move. So is movement also like captured? What are the signals there? So these were some really cool things we did back then. But unfortunately, what happened at that time, this was again, I'm talking about 2006 time frame, is that we had all the data. It was a very fun thing. We had all the data. They gave it as DICOM, in DICOM format. Today, it's a very common format that we know of. At that time, processing DICOM format was, at least for us, it was very difficult. We could not get any, either the license was too much or we could not get any good libraries to do that. So it's like we had the data and we did all these experiments ourselves, but we could not do anything with the data. It was just like that. So finally, we ended up just downloading some data from the internet and then using different techniques back then and to kind of and published a paper. uh, these papers were at least helpful in since both not they are not top tier, but still it was helpful as an undergrad research paper to kind of apply to US universities. These were helpful there. So in the US, my master's research was still somewhat similar. So kind of was sticking out to the similar fields, like image forensics is what Photoshop image detection and all came to be known as, and also like sieve carving, which later I'll just talk about. And one interesting thing I saw here was that data can be like at different forms. Even noise is actually a data, right? Like it's just random data, random noise, right? So it was a very fun thought. What happened was that I was doing an experiment. I wanted to see how a detector would perform in the presence of noise, right? So meaning there is an image, I would add noise to that and then see how it would perform. Basically, like it should not perform very well. But that experimental result turned out to be the other way around. What happened was we had this method to detect like resampling in images, and what happened was that when I added noise as an experimental thing, it started behaving better. So it like the results which we got were better with noise than without noise, right? And that was a like very initial paper, and it was an empirical result only, like meaning that at least at that time I was very new and could not really theoretically or did not pursue a theoretical justification for that. And so it's like how you take an image, add noise, and then pass through the detector and see the detector's output. You're actually getting some good results. And you can see it here very clearly. These are the four peaks without any resampling. When you do some JPEG compression, all of these get destroyed. When you add a little bit of noise to this, you can see some of those peaks kind of coming back. And when you add a good amount of noise, you can see that these four peaks are almost same as these four peaks. And that's what we wanted to actually get. That's the signal that we wanted to. So that was the initial work. And now I'm able to relate that this is actually some what today is in diffusion, some form of diffusion, not the exact diffusion like as it happens today. There is no neural network or machine learning involved, but this was something similar to that. This is actually an open problem also. So anybody is interested, this is could be. I'm not sure if anybody has done more work on this. I have not see. I don't remember coming across, but this is some interesting work to pursue. And my master's research further also did some work on data hiding. So these are some terms like steganography, data hiding, detection of data hiding, and also like watermarking. All of these are coming back today. Like watermarking, we thought is like done and dusted, but today we see Google has the synth ID, which is basically a digital watermark on images. Our early methods were like this: if this is the image, don't watermark everywhere in the image, but find some areas in the image that you can watermark. And those areas are, even after some distortion, say if there is some cropping or so many other things like that, if you pick up or rotation and scaling, if you pick up those, you could get the data back, right? So the same data in all of these squares, we embed the same data. It could be just like some small data, and when it is distorted, like slightly rotated, we could retrieve the data from these many blocks. So at least 6 blocks we could retrieve the data. So today we see that, of course, there's no neural network. All of those things are not involved here, but we see many of these are coming back today. So that's another interesting thing. And this also helped me in the project in Walt Disney Animation was very similar. That was an interesting one wherein they had a lot of artwork, and these are huge artworks. You need like huge scanners to even scan those. These were like hand drawn by artists, and each sequence would be hand drawn so that like they could be like very at high resolution projected the screen. So very classical works. So they wanted all of them to be watermarked, and we were exploring some ways like these to do that. So that was another interesting work. So then the first few years went just like that, right? So the papers were coming and everything was happening, but it was like what do you do for research? And that's when want to do something really different, and so there was a thought of like doing interdisciplinary research. We hear a lot like maybe like today what you hear from, so you would have heard, if you see AlphaFold, they would have said you get 1% from the bio area, 1% from the AI. They both like talk and find the problems and try to solve something, right? So during my time, like our same building had my areas of research were like signal and image processing and machine learning and so on. And uh, like our same building, a different floor had like this computer security lab, the sec lab, which is very famous. They've been like conducting the crypto conference in the same place only in Santa Barbara for more than 40 years. And they also are almost always in all the top DARPA like capture the flag competition, they will always be in the top kind of. So uh, we had a chat with them, and they were gracious enough to say that okay, we have a lot of data, we do our computer security stuff on it, but if you want to do something else, do it and see, come back to us and tell us if there is a, you learned anything from it. So this was like early data science and data analysis, today what we call exploratory data analysis and so on, right? So that kind of thing. And then the Navy Office of Naval Research, which funds lots of projects, was like that idea to see these types of exploratory research projects. So that's when started my first thing, and I should say it wasn't easy. It wasn't like just like okay, I just got the data and this things just appeared overnight. No, it was not like that. It was quite a lot of it did take quite a lot of things, and I'll maybe mention that. So the thing was that we could see that the cyber attacks were increasing. The motivation was the following: the malware mutation was also rising, and lots of cyber campaigns were happening. So what they and then it was also expanding to so many other platforms like Linux and even OS X. So the main reason was this. One of the reasons for this was because the hackers knew of ways to sabotage the current methods and to like kind of bypass them. The current methods are usually based out of static analysis, which tries to, and then dynamic analysis, which static analysis runs, which tries to understand the code inside, like control flow graphs and other kinds of things. Dynamic analysis would try to execute it in either a virtual environment or a sandbox-like environment and try to see what happens. And antivirus software use many of these, like emulators, hashes, and so many other methods. But the hackers had access to all of these, so they were able to come out with ways to kind of do that. And I think in today's terms, today's world with AI, this may again come up very soon. We are seeing lots of cyber attacks happening, so I think it's very crucial. Again, this is so we had lots of access to malware and computer virus, or millions, like and that is one thing I'll also touch upon, since this is CDPG. How, and I had no knowledge of handling data, or handling like large data, right? Like it's that itself is it's you need to learn some tricks of the trade, and also some good practices, best practices. So that also was something new, which is interesting. Today we have data loaders and all of those things. Internet is also very well evolved, but I'm telling a little bit way back then. So the question was, could we explore at a feasibility to take an alternative approach? The signal and image processing area was developed for many years, right? 50 years. You had speech processing and all of that very well developed, like Fourier analysis, all of those were there, DFT, all of those were there. So can you bring in some methods from there and try to see if you can uh, produce some orthogonal or complementary methods to existing malware detection methods, which knowing which may kind of, these may be a little bit difficult for the hackers to break. It's not like impossible. They can always learn that and break that also, but when you bring in some new things, it's like suddenly shows up there, right? So that was the kind of motivation, basically. So we know that hackers try to evade traditional mechanisms. So can we propose orthogonal methods? And what we wanted to do back then was, we saw what the methods were doing. Like they were doing static analysis, dynamic analysis. All of each one had different methods. We wanted to just break all of that and just treat data as data. For us, it's just data, right? Like we did not want to. I mean, this was just one of the approaches we were following. Just treat data as data, any data. So what we did was, any data, any binary data at the end of the day, like if you think about it, it is just zeros and ones. And if you take 8 zeros at a time, right, like 8 bits at a time, that's like you get the number 0. And if you take like all ones, you will get number 255. So basically, it's like the the bits can be the any digital data can be represented in like an unsigned integer format, UNT8. And this is the format that normally like images use and so on. And it's the same format which hex editors also use, but they use it in a different way. 00FF is what they will use, 0001 and so on. So we knew how a hex editor would, hex viewer would view it. So we just map these as 0 to 0 and 1 to 1. I mean, FF 00 as 0 and FF as 255, and all the other ones as between them, 0 between 0 and 255, which is the standard way in which images are represented. If you take any of our photos that we take, it's an RGB array and red grid, and all of these are the values of each of these arrays are between 0 and 255. 0 usually it's black, and 1 usually is the white. And we also did, so we, that was one way to represent this. The other way was representing it as a signal, like here, right? So what happened was, when we represented it like this, we just saw that there was a lot of visual similarity among malware of the same class and malware of the different class. And this is again visual similarity from a human perspective, right? Like when we see these four, this is a dialer is one class of malware, one family of malware. Dialer platform is another family. Fake reader is one family. User is one family. We see these four families. We can see that there is similarity within, and there is also dissimilarity across. If you just come, and this helped us to think that, okay, if humans can visualize it this way, any human image similarity descriptor that would have been proposed to find similar images, today we have clip and all of the others and so on, those methods would work, should work really by principle work on this. The challenge is these are not natural images, these are artificial images, like because they are created out of data. But the good part is that it still worked. The image similarity descriptor still work very well on this. So let me give you an example again. We saw here all the horizontal, right? This is just two variants, like next to each other, next to each other, next to each other. You can see how it is. And next I'll show what happens when you toggle between them. That will be a better, even better visualization, right? So this is variant 1. This is variant 2. You can see how exactly these variants are formed, right? They may have added some data, they may have added some keys. So we don't want to really focus on those, because the security methods will already focus on those. The static analysis of the one. We want to just focus on the higher level signature that we can extract from these, right? So you can see like how if I just toggle between, these are four different families, but variants of four different families. And I can see, you can see these things coming up, right? So that was the other one. And if you just put all of them in one, you can see these different patterns. They appear like noise and random data, but that's actually some pattern to it, like kind of. So we also saw that this phenomenon was not only for malware from Windows, but also on OS X and like Linux and Android, because at the end of the day, hackers would use similar tools. Although these were different compilers and different, everything was different for these different OS, the tools would be similar. So the same similar process was also observed across malware from different OS. So we came up with this initial work, like first it's called visualization and automatic classification, and presented this in a visualization conference. So it was like a VisSec, visualization for cybersecurity. So it's this paper is like a highly cited paper with that, and you could see how surprisingly been increasing. The first few years not much, slowly, but the last few years, possibly because a lot of people are using it to deep learning. At that time, I did not use deep learning. Deep learning was just coming up at that time. We just used standard methods. But now, every year, even 2025, we see it's still very highly cited, kind of. And so this was proof of concept, right? This is just a proof of concept, but you would need to develop something more than that, right? Like this was done only on some 9,458 samples belonging to 25 different families. So if you really want to see if this works, I mean, it's still a good proof of concept which people could develop. So we really want to see if it works in a lot of large scale. So what we did was we just, okay, why don't you compute? Why don't you just take all the samples that we have, and put it up in a system called SARVAM, which is basically, we just name it as search and retrieval of malware. Today we have SARVAM for different AI and so on, but the idea was like query based retrieval. If you get if you get either some unknown executable, you want to know if it is malicious or benign and so on, we would have a large database of malware. We would have computed the fingerprint. In today's term, the embeddings. Like today, what you call embedding, those days it was called either fingerprints or feature vectors and so on. And we would have the labels for all of those also. So then it's just a matter of approximate nearest neighbor search, and it will tell you like what are the top matches, and you could decide. People could, we didn't want to like say they could decide on the confidence, and decide and so on. And we initially started off with about 7 million malware or so in the database. And the good part is a lot of people outside also started using it. We at one point we got close to like, cumulatively we got close to like either 500,000 malware that were submitted from different sources. So that was one good. I mean, Virus Total and other services have much more, but for an academic project, this was still a good thing that we had. And it was this was running just a few months back. Today I checked, it was not running. So maybe some and this was from UCSB. So but again, like, yeah, if needed, anybody could bring it up. It was just a simple thing. And so far I talked about classification, which is a multi-class problem, and then retrieval, which is like tries to find the nearest neighbors and so on. And then the last part is like, we also wanted to do if the core part is detection, if something is binary or like benign or malicious, right? So we also publish another work on this, only focusing on the detection part, what you would need to make it detection, like good detection. So this was published at ACSAC, which is like considered as it's close to top tier, but not top tier. But like one of the top four security conference are usually like the NDSS and a few of the CSS and what's. ACSAC is very close, but yeah, we at least got published there. That was another good one. So you have detection, and then you'd also, how do you keep building more on this, right? When you have large data, and this is something which could be useful for CDPG or others. Large data, you could also have you could also have a dictionary, a grid-based visualization will bring out a lot of amazing patterns. Most people today treat visualization in a different way, but this is one way which is like really good, like visual representation, combining visual and textual embeddings, right? That is what this would do. So this was an early work called 80 million tiny images. Unfortunately, it got taken down due to some other reasons recently from MIT. But you could see that the green area is all leaves. Then they would consider words from the dictionary, and they will just find some like average. They would find Google. They will Google search for images of those words, and they would try to find an average image, and they would try to fit it in a grid here. These would show up some great patterns when you view it this way, and it's called like a dictionary corpora. So that was another work, and we thought, okay, we have a large number of malware. We could also do something similar to that, and what patterns will show up there. So just as we suspected, so we got some really interesting patterns. You can see that earlier I had some 25 different families, right? All these 25 25 different families showed up here as 25 different like you can see how tightly clustered they are. So each point in this grid is a different variant, right? So you can see this clustering very nicely here. It brings you like explainability and so many other things also to the whole thing. These two are like scatter plots, which are this is a scatter plot, but this is like using visualization here. And only if you only visualize benign and malicious, here also you get some very interesting patterns. You have a benign cluster only here, and then you have another benign clusters here. But you have also a very malicious space. So data, you can think of it as, how can data be uh, like visualized, and this is we wanted to actually pursue one more research wherein, like, if you have large amounts of data which goes to the billions to billions kind of thing, you could create, this is 2D grids, right? You can create 3D grids. Like yesterday I saw in LinkedIn, somebody had done Google with using Google Gemini. Somebody did use the webcam and was able to simulate galaxies and all so on, right? You would have seen that LinkedIn, it was very viral. And you could kind of data also, you could the if you just visualize it in multiple dimensions, you have huge amount. So in the cybersecurity space, here each point is taken, right? But imagine you could have empty spaces, or like, and if a new malware is coming, you'll know that this is where it's going to come and sit, like, and you can have empty spaces here and there, and kind of in the grid, right? So as you expand the grid, you can design algorithms that way. And and uh, and, and, and at our UC Santa Barbara, you used to have something called allosphere. Like, you can just go in, and you could look up, you can just visualize really like as you visualize in a movie theater and so on, the very high dimensional things. So lots of interesting things could be done in that way also. So these were some of the challenges and learning from a data standpoint that I got. So how to handle millions of file, that to malware, right? This is a challenge because at least in the initial days before switching to Linux, I was using Windows. And Windows, like, you have to be very careful because all of these are Windows malware. Eventually, I switched to Linux, but that was a. It's also good to switch to Windows because it's good to have Windows because apart, you also want to know what the antivirus software, like, you can also install different antivirus software in your machine, and what what they kind of label the malware as, get their labels. So how to handle those were some challenges. And today we have a lot of efficient data loaders from various AI libraries that those days it was not there. So you had to talk to some researchers. And one idea which he pursued, which worked really well, we saw over and over, is that maybe at CDPG you have better ideas and better things. So when you have millions of samples, one way to have it is have it in a nested, like a tree-like structure. So what we did was, if you have a malware, it will have a hash, either MD5 or a SHA-256 hash. These hashes will be like, it will start with some numbers, right? They're all with between 0 and F only. Like, you will know that. So you can create like 5 level or 6 level directories. Basically, like, first you have 0, and under the 0 directory you'll have another 16 directories, 0 to F. And each of those each of those directories will have more 16 more directories. In this way, you can create levels of directories here, like 5 levels, 6 levels. And retrieving data from these levels was very easy for the operating system also, in compared to retrieving data. If all these billions of files are going to be in one folder, or even if you divide it as 100,000 files in one folder and so on. So that's one interesting learning that we got, and it worked very well at a later point in time also. So that was one thing. And and sometimes I've heard that some CS researchers use 2 levels of hashing. Like, they will not reveal the original hash. You'll have a first hash that will be mapped. There will be a dictionary which says what the mapping is, like how today's authentication, most of the authentication works today. And then their hash, the actual hash, will be stored in one of those things. That is another one. That we have. So this is the first part, and like the next part goes to this thing. But any just thought of stopping for questions, or any questions so far? And what, I mean, what about the timing also? I know that uh, we started late, so just thought of pausing here. Any questions or anything?
Yeah, Dr. Lakshman, you can continue.
So, Dr. Jyotima, I think we cannot hear you.
Yes, I don't know. This seems to be some Shalabh.
Yes, Shalab. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, Lakshmanji. Thanks for the talk. Quick question. So, is there any thought behind what exactly is the pattern that you're observing in the images? Like what specific aspect of the malware is actually showing up as a detectable pattern?
So your question is that um, we see different malware families. Is there
Mhm.
any association of
Like
the
what
fingerprint?
characteristic of the malware itself is actually resulting in that in this pattern that you're seeing?
Yeah. So we directly know, directly we won't have, but it is like um, you have to associate this pattern to a like a behavioral pattern of a malware. So I think we had another work on clustering. I think I didn't show that here. So you can get these clusters. So without, if you don't know the pattern, right, you can just form clusters without unsupervised. No, you don't have the data, and from that you can reverse engineer and see are these clusters forming any patterns. So that is one thing which I think we kind of did, and I think very similar work the security lab also had done for another part of it. We just following the steps there. So there is no, the answer is that there is no direct way to do it, but it's you have to just reverse engineer and then try to find if the patterns are showing up as any behavioral patterns.
Okay, maybe one more quick thing. So since you are basically, doing a byte conversion of the actual binary, which would be quite dependent on the compiler used and the compilation options used. So do you have some sense of like how robust is it to changes? So say if I compile my malware with -O1 option versus -O3, so if I change the level of optimization that I'm doing during compilation, so would it be a completely different signature or would it be sort of related to what was there in the original malware?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think yeah, this was always brought up as one of the questions. Yes, the compiler does will change, and we went even one step further. And the more than the compiler, they were also interested in knowing about the packers. So, like in the when it comes to malware, packing is one of the main things. Like what people hackers used to do is they used to take one malware and they will just use many different packers which basically like it will take the data and put it in a different format, and what you see is a packed version, very similar to the when we get some executable files to set up in a computer, right? You'll have a package installer which will be very standard, and then that will do a self archiving. So there are packers like UPX, and there are packers like a few other ones which are there, and very advanced packers also like a T which are very, they use not just compression but also encryption. So you will definitely see changes there, right? But what when you it won't be the original pattern, won't will be preserved to an extent. You can see maybe my one of my colleagues who did who actually helped me in the original work. He did this work on compilation and packing, but he used ngrams and nperms. So he was trying to find how many ngrams and nperms will be retained after compilation, packing, and so on, and that linkage is maintained or not. Here you will not be able to link it directly, but what you would get is that if you have a malware and they are using a few different variants of compilation. If you have another malware from the same family and that also goes through the same process, then there will be similarity after the compilation, but not in the original sense. So that's one thing which we had done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Again, the main objective was to, like, I think, I mean, I wouldn't say, but one of the initial parts was to see um, you are so the most of the other methods will work via security based mechanisms, right? Like using other static analysis, dynamic analysis, and so on. For our case, can you build a platform agnostic, packer agnostic, just which something which works only on data? And of course, it will have limitations, but how much it is complementary to this, and so on. So that is what we want to do. Treat data as it is, and try to develop these methods. Yeah. Any other questions at this point? So then, how are we on the time? Like, just wanted to check.
This is usually a 1 hour session, but
Okay.
we can continue, not a problem.
Okay, sure. Any time if I need to hurry, like let me know. I'll just try to do it. So the second part is on I'll go. It's on media forensics and deepfake detection. And here you could see that my like one aspect of what I could see is that many times is that the previous research kept coming back again and again. So in my undergrad research, that was like detecting photoshopped images. That was one thing. It was there. And then when I in the masters also they continued that, and those works helped in like the writing a grant proposal when the DARPA's media forensics call came, and we were able to like secure a grant there. And this was in a consortium like mode, like what today we talked a lot about the consortium mode. Basically, like our company like was the prime PI, and we collaborated with the university. They were also our team, and a government lab from the US. Like so, we three are one team, and like some of the other. So the challenges are usually like a competitions. Like some of the other people are really like they were from USC, Purdue, University of Maryland, and companies like Kitware, like and one team was SRI interest, so on. So like really, and some from foreign also, Brazil, Italy, and so on. So it was quite challenging. So you're competing with, and these are like world's top experts in that field, media forensics field. So it was an interesting experience to kind of work. So the program looks like there is a call for papers, and then you submit your methods in which you want to call for proposals, you which you how you want to solve it, and you have to. DARPA's programs are very extensive. You'll every month you'll have an update, monthly meeting. You have to tell what you did, and if they're not satisfied, the monthly meetings will become bi-weekly meetings. So for a brief period, we had bi-weekly meetings, and every 6 months you have to all everybody will have all the everybody has to go and present their work in one setting. So that was also amazing to see, like as a workshop format. And you will be given data sets every 6 months. You will have to show that your methods are performing well on those data sets every 6 months, and there are chances if you don't perform, there some teams actually get they are removed from the program. The funding is also cut, so they're very strict. I heard IR was even strict, but that is another thing. So yeah, so I'll go a little bit quickly here. So I'll just because so the basic idea is how do you detect tampered images, photoshopped images, thing. And the last towards the end I'll touch upon AI generated and deepfake. So the simple way is that, and those days, like you have an object, you paste it in, and you get a new image, right? And how do you detect if this is tampered or not? So we tried with different approaches. One is like identifying seam carving. Other one is a GAN. Another one is like a holistic image, holistic method using statistical signal processing, statistics and AI. So seam carving, I'll skip this. I'll just tell what it is. Is that so? Seam carving is so normally when you sample, when you either upscale, upsize or downsize an image, you will like kind of do uniform sampling. Seam carving is like a greedy method using like a dynamic programming. You will find a path like this from top to bottom, and you will only remove this path. So when you remove this path, you are 1 pixel less. So if this image is like say 100 rows by 200 columns, when I remove this column, it becomes 100 rows by 199 columns. So in this way, you can remove many columns like this in a non-uniform way, such that the some important objects you can preserve their original aspect ratios. It was a very new method back then. And detecting this was difficult. It is still is difficult. We see a lot of papers here. So one of our papers is still had more than 100 citations. We were one of the early ones to do this. So we proposed a simple method wherein very base again, these are initial days of deep learning. Today these methods may be very basic, but that was back then. So just divide the images into patches, have two classes, seam carving and not seam carve, train a binary detector. So so basically, like, you have small patches. You can, since seam curving is very easy to programmatically do, you'll have seam card untampered patches and tampered patches, seam card patches, and put it inside a very simple network like VGG16 or something back then, and see what you get, right? And then you will get a heat map showing, like, this is a probability. It will say whether it is 0 or 1. You will get a heat map. If there is something detected, it will show red. If there is nothing is detected, it will show blue. And then these also could be put up under another neural network. You don't need to put it on a neural network for this. You can even do some simple, how many red blocks are there, how many blue blocks are there. But we just thought of doing one more neural network to make things simple. So, and the good part about this method is that though it's very simple, you could see visual results are it shows very clearly. So this is an image which no seam carving. You can see all the detections are mostly blue except for some few false positives. And here, for a SIM card image, most of it is red, like, kind of. So that is a SIM card image. So, like, basically, we just when you analyze the heat map, it will also show. You can also see that which areas are which actually shows up. Interesting part is the sky area is very smooth, so that does not get picked up. It's very challenging to pick up because most of the values may be very similar. But textured areas like this get picked up very well by the detector. So, and we did try. Can you even do it only for sky? Take only sky patches, no seam carving, and try if it works or not. Didn't work that great, but at least a few one or a small area you could see some red patches there. So that was the initial one. It worked very well for object removal. So here, this is an original image. Say somebody marks this person what to be removed from the image, and you get the image which is object removed here. And when we see that, you can see that very clearly the seam where it goes through, and it also provides you explainability because it tells you where exactly this has gone through. So good example is like this, right? Say somebody did seam carving, and by mistake they cut off this person's leg, right? Like, because the seam carving would just go through this person, and our heat map shows like this. And somebody, and say if they had protected this person, they put a green mask and protected this person from getting seam carved. Our 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 detection also very clearly reflects that. You can see, right, when I toggle between. So simple methods sometimes work really well, and we kind of also saw how it works on on SQL. So we extended this to satellite image also, which is very, actually, there it is very difficult. So satellite or DARPA project, when DARPA project was going on, they saw this results, and NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, who's like they are the parent organization of NSA. You would have, most people have heard about NSA. They felt that this could, rather than images like this, it's a challenge for aerial images, satellite images, because satellite images, the resolution is like the objects are very, very small. If somebody removes something very small, it's very challenging. A human eye will not be able to figure that out. So they saw our results, and they like, okay, why don't you continue some research on this, like, kind of. So some project also was there because of that, which also resulted in a few more publications later on. So, and then, so this was a respect to seam carving. It's an interesting approach, and still I wouldn't say it's a solved problem. There are still ways to you can deceive it with it. You can, lots of papers still keep coming out. We just proposed a few methods. So the next one was GAN images. That's where, like, deep fakes all very common. Now, of course, diffusion methods are the most common one. When I was doing this research, diffusions were, the paper was there, but nobody was using the diffusion to do these things. So I think you would have all seen these types of things. Like, you can do, so these are all old methods. This is texture transfer, like horse to zebra, zebra to horse, and then you can do, like, get a lot of expressions. Very these are like those days, like ProGAN used to be really good, StyleGAN, and all of those were really good. Like, Of course, today's AI is like nowhere even compared what you can get from Nano Banana or ChatGPT, or you can't even compare this with that. But I'm just telling way back. But I still feel that the methods that we developed back then could still be maybe a little bit. You'll have to do it a little bit fine tuning here and there, but it could still be applicable here. So what we did was, so these are just more examples like face swapping and so on. So what we did was we had this data set of real images and AI generated images. Most people were using CNNs on top of this in some way. And, that's just fine. We wanted to try something different at that time. So in my early master's research, I had also been part of data hiding and data watermarking and all of those things. So from our old papers, not me, but one of my seniors from the university, he had a thesis called detection of detecting hidden data in images. And what he did was he used method called using the pixel co-occurrence matrix. So basically, co-occurrence matrix is if you have an image like this, right? Like they say this is the image. Co-occurrence will try to find the statistics of neighboring pixels. So basically, if 1 and 0 occur here, right, you will increase the histogram count to 2, and there is no 0 0 occurring next to each other, so that is 0. I think there are 4 occurrences of maybe 0 1. If we calculate 0 1, there is 1 0 1 here. Maybe other places also there is another 0 1 here, another 0 1 here, and one more 0 1 here. 4. Basically, like a histogram of co-occurrences. That's an easy way to like just put it as. So this would be the good part about this matrix is that since the range of the unsigned integer is 0 to 255, this matrix is always going to be 0 to 256 by 256 matrix, right? And this was by like older person who had he had published this work in 2005, even before I joined. Like I had gone to the US at that time. So what he did was those days SVMs were popular. Neural networks were like they are not very popular. In fact, if you use neural networks, you will not people will not really very confidence will not accept your work. Then SVMs were very popular. Later on, random forest, bag of features and all, bag of words and all became popular. What he did was, and it was very difficult to kind of process this back then. So he computed the to detect hidden data in images. Uh, these are called natural image statistics. So the idea was that if for a natural image, these co-occurrence statistics will have a pattern because of the cameras and so on, right? But if there is some data hidden inside that image, these statistics would get altered. So though you could train a machine learning classifier to actually find that out. So what he did was he had a database of training data set of images with no data hidden and images with data hidden, and then he took computed the co-occurrence matrices for all of that. So you get like a 256 by 256 matrix. And in today's terms, people would have just computed that into a vector, and then they would have just done that. But what he did was he did handcrafted features. He found some features handcrafted from here, and then passed that small feature to SVM, and he was able to classify images that were like that had data hidden in them. So in my time, this was 10 years later, right? I was thinking now we are in the data AI area, AI age. Why would you need to handcraft if you just pass in that co-occurrence matrix to a deep learning classifier, deep learning neural network? Wouldn't should the ideally the neural network should just feed it, take in the data. It should basically learn from the data and it should create its own features, right? So that's what we did. That was the idea basically. Basically taking an old approach, then finding something. These are simple things again, but it worked very well. So this was our simple approach, right? Take an image, compute co-occurrence matrices, pass it through some deep learning neural network, and do a binary classification, training, testing. And what happened was this worked really well. So initially we submitted we tried it on some cycle GAN images and other GAN, but and since that's why I was saying this, since this is a very generic method which works only at a statistical level, and this could be extended also. We just computed pixel level co-occurrences. You can do 3-level co-occurrence, 4-level co-occurrence. You can do so many other things you can that people can do, and it may work today also, like for diffusion and other images. So we are getting really good accuracies, and we published this, and this paper has more than I think 400 citations at this time, and so that was one good thing that we had. Uh, so so what we did was, yeah, we compared ourselves with other methods who had already published just another. These were also from the same media forensics project. Uh, so the funny part was, it was like we had this result, we didn't publish it. Just in a couple of months, the other team published it. So that was like, oh no, we missed the seminal work there. But the good part was that we also uh, we also got the data from them. It's like, okay, can you share your data? We'll compare it with our method, and we were able to show that our method beats their method. So even if you miss, sometimes it's fine. If it would have been great if we had all the results, we just did not. We were just not fast enough to publish. We would have been the first method. So like the other team was the first method, but that's fine. Sometimes these things happen. Um, and then we extended that work to previous work only focused on detection. Then we extended that work to like attribution. Attribution will tell which GAN it came from instead of just telling whether it is GAN or not. Localization will also try to localize these patterns. So that is another thing that we did. One other thing I would say which we did, I don't know if it's a good thing to say, is that so there was always a question: should we publish in a top A star conference or publish in a small conference and get citations? In I was working at that time, so publishing in these A-star conferences usually take a lot of. You have to write your paper really well, and it takes a lot of your bandwidth. So what the approach that I followed, at least to many of my papers, is uh, we didn't target the A-star conferences. We targeted the conferences which had a very high acceptance rate. But since the work is a work, right? Because archive is where most people do go these days. So it automatically got citation. Whether it's a good approach or not, I don't know. At least reflecting back, so I would have very few A-star conferences, and that too, it was not directly from me. This would have been from my colleagues who are from university. So I would be a second author or co-author for that. Most of my direct works were simpler conferences, but they ended up getting good citations. That is another small thing. So we did co-occurrence matrix for GAN detection. So basically, just did this, and this time we used better networks. Previously, it was just simple network, and we also used larger scale evaluations. At that point, this was very large, like 2.6 million images and so on. We got some good results at that time also. We compared with our own method. So this was our method. So we compared this method with our own previous method and the other method. So that was a nice, interesting thing to do, and basically did some visualizations and saw that this worked very well. So this also has some good citation. The second paper, this was second paper, this also has some good citations now. And StyleGAN was very new at that time, so we also could produce some results at that StyleGAN 2, so good results at that kind of time. So yeah, I'll just go over fast because these are just showing some results. And localization basically says wherein these will all be very blue. Here you can see where most of these areas which are tampered are, right? So that is one thing. And what happened was that, so previously this method was used only to detect GAN images and non-GAN images. And as part of our media forensics program, I was initially mentioned that we had challenges, right? They will give you blind data sets, unlabeled data sets, and you'll have to show that your method is performing well and it works on them. Best part was this was like evaluated by a third party, like we NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. They were our evaluation partner for the project, so they would evaluate them. So there is no way of you cannot say you're fine tuning this. This is like a pure blind evaluation. You send them your method, you will, and as a Docker container. So we were all supposed to package our methods as Docker containers and with very specific formats, and the evaluation will be done by different teams. So what we got was very good part was that our team had got like one of the highest in that, right? So that was very nice to kind of show. And this was evaluated not by us; it was evaluated by MIST in their report. So that even shows like that validation is even better when it comes from other, right? So and these were the teams that we were actually going against, like the some big players like Honeywell, Kitware with Berkeley team, and then you have Purdue and SRI, University of Maryland, USC, and with big resources. So it was a nice thing for them. And they also did a very nice they comparison showing how these different teams had performed in different years. So there was this 2017, 2018, 2019, and 20. So all of these years, so our team was kind of in the, I wouldn't say every year we were at the top, but it was definitely, it stood out, right? Like something. So that was again a nice thing to kind of show. That was there. And these are some of the research that, and finally, I'm not talking much here. We are almost done last couple of slides. We are also extend. So NGA saw that we are doing some interesting work. So we are also like able to do some interesting work on geospatial data, since CDPG IUDX has some geospatial like data. How can you actually even detect tampering at a level of the rational polynomial coefficients which are used to create these orthorectified images? And if you see these patterns, right, I'm saying research comes back again and again. We use the very similar method, very old when I difference in that adding noise to denoise in the Fourier spectrum. Very similar methods again repeated themselves. That is another thing we keep seeing these patterns again and again. So I think one more paper was there. I'll just skip that, but a few more. But overall, like I can just say that data has played a critical role in different aspects, whether it was experimentation, innovating new methods, and I feel that there is always a lot more to data than what we think. And I'm very happy to see what an organization like Center of Data for Public Good is doing at the scale at which it's doing. It is very nice to actually see that I had seen something similar like when happening in the DARPA in the US and NIST and so many other organizations. Now it's nice to see like CDBG like very. I was able to see what all different projects they are doing and so on. So that's very amazing to see many of them. So that's oh yeah, I think I switched the slides. There's one more on generation. You can also manipulate these maps to create generated data and try to find what will happen if you do like using today again. Nano Banana does this, but we had published this a few years back. But this was another project. But yeah, so I'll stop with that. Any questions? Should I stop sharing also? Maybe. Or maybe I'll just keep it on. Any questions, comments, any?
Akhil? Hi, Akhil. Could you take it
Yeah,
from here?
yeah, sure. I'll take it. So the floor is open for questions. Okay, I think there are no more questions. So thank you, Lakshmanan sir, for this insightful talk. Uh, this surely gave an insight to the different techniques that can be used from image processing to detecting the malwares and threats.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot for
Yeah.
inviting me.
For
It was
those,
really
yeah.
nice.
So for those who have missed the introduction, Mr. Lakshmanan Nataraja is a senior researcher and innovator for 15 plus years, and his experience is in signal processing, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. He's best known for his malware visualization work and his contributions to deepfake and GAN detection, which we saw in the presentation as well, the metadata forensics and satellite image authentication. He holds 6 US patents covering image manipulation and detection, metadata verification, event forensics, and malware classification. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in, and I thank everyone who has joined this Data Dialogues.
Thanks again for having me. Yes,
Yeah.
really nice.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry?
Excuse me, sir. Shall I speak, sir? Sorry for the interruption.
Sure. Yeah, you have
Yes, sir.
questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you very much for this wonderful session, sir. It is very insightful, and I have a very small doubt, sir, for Lakshman, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm Gautam, sir. I'm just a recent grad from computer science and engineering, sir. Sir, in a few images, like the satellite images, there were modified images, no, sir. Like in the very past last slides, and I'm wondering that like whether what Nano Banana does, or whether what in our thing that you have said now, where does the image is getting, like when some content of the image is getting replaced, how it is perfectly replacing that or making it look like a real one, so that's what like
So I think you're asking about maybe this image, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Even that, and even before that, a lady's one leg was removed, sir, in previous slides. There, like, if some content of the image is removed, then there must be some blank pixels or something. But when the model is able to replace the part of the image that much accurately, uh, like whether it must have some references from the large repository of data or some sort of thing, sir. How?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's a very interesting point. So there are two aspects to it. One is using like AI-based methods, wherein, like you said, it will have access to a large data and it will know what to fill in there. Like that is AI-based. Almost most of the methods that are coming out today use that. What I had so in fact, even the current slide I'm showing also it would be used on that. We basically it will have it will have already trained, the network would have already known what will come if, say, this part is removed. You remove it in the map and then you have it here, so it will also do it here. This is purely based on AI neural network. The earlier one which you saw based on like the person which was remote, right, like from the
Yeah.
image like this,
Yes,
I
sir.
think you're asking about this one, no? I think what went there. Yeah, you are asking about this one, right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this one, there is no AI involved. So here it is just based on the seam curving algorithm. So seam curving, what it does is seam curving and seam insertions. So what seam curving does is you can take an image and you can like either expand it or you can contract it, like basically. So the here the image the pixels are interpolated with no AI is kind of involved. So basically you have the input image. So this is like, so this is, say, the input image and this is a seam, no? What happens is that, see here, this is 4 rows 5 columns, no? If you do seam carving, uh, this is seam carving basically. The 5 columns become only 4 columns. So this middle column is removed. This B, wherever it passes through, this one B and all of that is removed. If you are doing seam insertion, it should have been here. Seam insertion, what will happen is you have one extra column. Instead of 5 columns, you have 6 columns. So you have, instead of A, B, C, you have A, B1, B2, and then C, where B1 is A plus B. It can be A plus B by 2 and B plus C by 2 or any other combinations also. So this is how it will kind of basically insert. Here there is no AI involved. It is just purely based upon the pixel information and what is there. Maybe somebody may have also done some. They may have mixed AI also with this and try to bring in some AI also here. That is also possible. So, but these are two different ways. But what I feel is different in our some of our methods is that we are looking at the statistics. So whether it is AI based or non AI based, yeah, you can still maybe able to train something, but you can keep increasing those co-occurrence matrices, co-occurrence statistics, and the statistics will kind of be difficult to defeat the statistical approaches.
Yes, sir. I clearly got it, sir. Sir, yes, sir. When we think out of the box, sir, apart from this scene carving method, nowadays, like there are many AI models. Like when you say Google has Nano Banana, Samsung AI is there, and Apple also has some AI, sir, where they are able to make some realistic modifications in the image, sir. But really, like a few months ago, a video got went viral in social media, sir, especially like when a woman edited her own selfie image, and when she tried to change some type of content in the image, the mole of the lady, like which is covered completely in the image, was there in the actual, like modified AI generated image, but on the same spot, like the lady has some mole on the hand, sir. Like then when this comes to the reality, like where the AI used large repositories of information, then how come the data security or privacy of the people, like what do you say, like what will be the sources, sir, like from where they would have taken that information, and how exactly they matched with I mean AI matches, and how accurately they can provide, sir.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I also remember seeing that example. I think it was from Nano Banana only. Like, yeah, we still don't know how it was able to get that particular one. You can just say that maybe it. I mean, like you can say it this way. It's possible that it has. I mean, nobody will reveal it, but as least so far we don't know. Take Google Photos. No, it can. If I have thousands of images in my Google Photos of myself, if I give my image today, it will go and give you all the, even 10 years back my image, it will be able to say and match that it is, yeah, all my images it's able to do, and very good reasonable accuracy. It's not like perfect, but reasonable accuracy. So even if it is able to do like that for Google Photos, which, and it's really good, it is quite possible that they may also have internally, we don't know what their model is, they may have trained upon that exact. So it's like how, for me, my photo, it's able to trace back to like 10 years back also, or even more older. So the same way in that database, if that person is there and that person is using Nano Banana, and that person's photo already is somehow there in its database, it is possible that it would have traced it, and the network may have inadvertently put that all back in that thing. So that is the only because it's yeah, that is the only way I'm thinking of. It was able to associate, the network was able to associate that is the person, and when it is generating, it may have taken an older version of that person and generated it.
Yes, sir. Okay, got it, sir. Yeah, like maybe she might have used the same Google account which she had backed up all her Google photos, and she used it with the Nano Banana with the same mail ID, so that the model may be able to associate the her pictures for the generating the realistic output, maybe, right, sir?
Yeah, you don't know exactly, but that is a
Yes.
possibility. Like,
Yes, sure, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for clarifying my doubt.
Are there any more questions? No. Thank you, Lakshman sir, for joining us,
thanks again.
and thank you all for joining in. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you, sir.